uh, to make sure that we can have you on. Because I see two Alphees, and yet when I go share the screen, there's only one. So we'll, we'll we'll see what happens. But anyway, welcome everybody. Okay. Because what we're going to do here is that we're going to be talking about the Gators, and the Gators is a group that I started back in 2002 back here in Connecticut, but now we have Gators all over. So we're trying to get more Gators. Most of all, we're trying to get people interested into astrological research, and this is what we're trying to do for you today, is to prove to you that there is correlation in astrology. And a lot of people, I know, they don't like the research. They like to do what they want to do in astrology, and that's fine. But some of us want to bring out the real astrology and, to see what works and throw away what doesn't work. And we've done a lot of research, and we find out that there is correlation in astrology. So, I'm going to turn you over to, if I can, like I said, I hope so, because Franco is the organizer or the guy that really runs the Gator in the last 6 months or so. He's the top boy. And so what he's going to do is that he's going to talk about some research that he's done, and then we'll bring on Gator Steve, and then I'll be the tail end. Whatever time we got left, I will be there. But anyway, so let's see if I can share the screen to Franco here to see if this thing works. Okay, so it looks like it's going, right? Let's see here. I got all kinds of... Yeah, I can see your screen. There we go. Okay, we're recording, so we're all set. Go ahead. Well, thank you. You've done well, and like I said, Franco's the director of the Gators, and he usually runs the meeting on Tuesday night. And we meet every Tuesday night, and we assign work and check our work, and work with one another. So that's good. So I know Franco is at a conference right now, and so we got to let him go and do his stuff. And I know that Steve, you're on, right? Okay, let's see if I can pick you up and change the thing to you here. Steve, I think you're this one. Can you see the screen to change? Okay, you're on then. Yeah, thank you so much, Franco. Yeah, we see your screen. Yep, go ahead. Hello. Yeah, you're still on, right? Now we lost we lost your screen completely. At least I went black. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Well, I have to do it here. Actually, change the presenter. Okay. Now the thing is back to me now. Yeah. Well, that's okay. No problem. I can take over here and do some of the stuff here. Let me see here if I can. Hmm. Right. Of course. Of course. Hmm. Okay. Thank you so much, Steve. All right. Okay. Let's look at some of the stuff we can do here. We're going to just go around the merry-go-round here and see exactly how powerful what we can do. There's actually nothing in the sky that you can't test with this. I mean, I even made some special model, to find out-of-bound planets and all kinds of different techniques that we work in. But, one of the best feature of this program here is to be able to find something that works. In other words, get high chi-square means high probability that a certain aspect criteria works. And once that we've picked that up, then and what doesn't work, then neural net is probably one of the best mathematic around. And what it does is that it takes all those criteria that had a high probability and give that more weight, and the one that had less probability less weight, and the one that seldom minus weight. And then it creates an artificial intelligent model that we can do something with. And I've proven this, I've written this program, I don't know how long ago, and then we updated. Actually, I written in DOS the first time in 1982. All right, that's when we had the Radio Shack computer, but then it was updated in Windows and all that, and with Windows we could do a lot more. So just to give you an example, all right, I remember when Robert Williams died, all right, I picked up, we have a lot of data, and we get a lot from Lois Roden that she gives us permission to get all the data for. I mean, I was lucky in that time. She put me on the list as one of the person that could get all the free data that I want. So so we have it. So what I did is I took something like 89 person that committed suicide, ran it through just about everything, all kinds of criteria, probably, maybe a couple hundreds anyway of astrological criteria. Create a model, and then I'm able to go and check them out. So here I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to go to Neural Net Explorer here, move this so we can see it, and I'm going to do this, and there's a thing here that I should see. Suicide. All right, right here. Okay, so then I'm going to bring a chart up. So I can bring a lot of chart, or I can bring a whole chart file if I want. But I think that I have here Robert Williams chart that I put in here. Let me see if I can. Right here, Robert Williams. Okay, that's his chart right now. Now, this is the model here. This is the thing that says that all the people that committed suicide had this very, very a lot of these planets that was beyond the testing group or the control group that it was working. So let's see now if we calculate it. All right, look at this. In checking all this model here, when we put Robert Williams in there, he goes all the way up that there's a strong possibility that he would commit suicide. All right, he has a suicidal chart, and so it'd be nice to know once that we get accepted by the norm, and we're able to do that, to bring that into a psychological or a psychiatrist's office, and he has a client. You can get his birthday and then find if a person is liable to get to be suicidal or not. All right. I mean, all these things are what we're trying to establish as Gators, because what we are trying to do is we are trying to say, okay, all right, like our breast cancer thing. We know that I've been working with breast cancer, I don't know, for 2 years, maybe longer. When I first started, and I could prove that people that had breast cancer had all these criteria, that they all had, the same amount of astrological criteria working for them. I mean, the same aspect and the same house system and rulers and all that. And I was able to create a model like this, have neural net create a model. Then when somebody would send me a chart, say, well, my mother had breast cancer, here's her chart, I was able to put him in there and say, okay, it worked, because she did have breast cancer, and the model shows that she has the same astrological criteria of all the people that had breast cancer. And yet I was able to send people that are 80, 90 years old, I mean at least over 70, about 10 of them, that I could send it into my breast cancer file, and the blue line was only up to here. The bar graph was only showing, no, they're not going to get breast cancer. And so I always wanted to write this up into a medical journal. But there's only one problem. The problem is the first thing they're going to ask me is that, okay, how big is your sample? And right now, I think I sampled is like 362 or something like that. And they might say, well, your sample is not big enough, because before I got into astrology, I work as an experimental engineering I was a nuclear engineering. So I did do a lot of research. All right, that was my main thing, and so I believe in research, and I believe that even in astrology, research works. I mean, we've proven that. Hello. So anyway, and I believe that we can do all of that, and we can make the thing works. And so the biggest problem that we have, I could go to a cancer place and get a lot of birth data for people that have breast cancer, but we need time. That's what, as astrologers, this is what the dilemma that we have, is that we can get birthday, there's no problem at all. But the birth time is so important. We know that, because the houses are as important as the aspect or anything else, probably the more important than any. So that's something that can really stop us. But maybe someday, we'll be able to connect with somebody that will help us do this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's funny, because I like to check a lot of stuff in astrology, and I know that they were talking when Hillary and Mr. Trump there was running, and they say he's a liar, this guy's a liar, he's a liar, the whole thing. So I managed to collect, I don't know how many liars chart, quite a few of them, and and check them out to see what it is, because one of them had Neptune square Mercury, and the other one have Neptune conjunct and opposition. But anyway, and a lot of people were saying, well, this caused more of a liar. Well, let's look at it real quick. I think that if I go into my database here, and I'm going to have to get this out of the way here. Okay. All right. So I can go, I believe I got liars in here somewhere, and I can pick that up right here. I'll pick up the liars, and we have 81 chart. Okay. So let's see that we say, does a Mercury Neptune creates liars? I mean to see if that's a high criteria that this would happen, right? So what we do is that we go, we can go here and say, okay, we can say aspect, and I'm going to say natal, but clear this up and just put Mercury, okay? And I'll put all the aspect, and we'll say to Neptune here. Clear. I'm going to say Mercury Neptune. I mean, does liar have aspect between Mercury and Neptune? And then I can add this up right here. Okay. And I can go up there and say, all right, let's check it out. And all we got to do is click on this. And as you can see, if I look at all the events, none of them is important. I mean, none of them are important, Mercury, Neptune. So let's go back and here, and we'll change the planet Neptune to Saturn, for instance. And we'll say, okay. Add to list. Oh, come on, what did I do here? Let's try it again. Okay, there's the Saturn right here, and we'll click this up. And for some reason, what am I doing here? It's not giving me anything. Let me look at this again. Natals to natal, 10-degree orb. So actually Mercury aspect that tells us that, you know, there's not much, because I'm using natal Mercury, all right, with all these aspects to natal Saturn. And when I run them, it doesn't give me anything. I'm going to change this to 3 though, because it's a small sample. And as you can see, nothing. Oh, I see now. I see. You see, I have my thing set from file. And I'm going to generate the control group. Okay, that's my fault. And I'm going to put, okay. So here I have a choice of establishing my own control group. In other words, the group that I'm going to test my sample against this, or I don't. And this is what it says. Now it says I'm generating it. And we're going to do it to see what happened now. I should get an answer. Yeah. As you can see here, Mercury square Saturn is often 96% probability that if you have Mercury square Saturn, that you can be a liar. Mercury square Saturn, well, you know, they're all Mercury square Saturn. And Mercury conjunct Neptune right here often. So we can see here that the Mercury Neptune, okay, and Mercury conjunct Neptune, I think this is what Hillary had, and I think that Trump had Mercury square Neptune. And when I ran it a while back, you know, I found out that the Mercury conjunct Neptune were based as a liar. And Mercury square Neptune were based as people that were forgetful. You know, they couldn't remember anything, a poor memory. And the Mercury square Neptune was very strong in people with poor memory. And so maybe that's the trouble with Trump. He's not a liar. He just keeps forgetting what he's talking about. But anyway, so as you can see, you know, you can go out and you can listen to astrologers, and they say, oh, well, this is going on and that aspect is going on. And, it's funny because I've lectured just about at every conference throughout the world. I mean, Europe and Asia and everything, all major astrological conference, and all the conferences in America, UAC, ESAR, NCGR, and all the local conferences they had years and years ago. And so I used to come home with pads of stuff, and people would say, and I would copy it, then I would throw in my research and check it out. So this is one thing that I think we need to do, is we need to, because Diane, Gator Diane, which is, she's here today on the group, we got a book. And I'm not going to say who it comes from, but he sent me an autograph book. All right, a person that does sport predicting with astrology, and in his forward he said that he can predict sport by 97% probability with these techniques. And he had all kinds of techniques, the first house is the home team, the seventh house is a visiting team, the 10th house is has something to do with home team, and the moon, and all applying aspect and separating aspect. And we created a model, which we can create model, as you can see here. We can have 500 things here and click save and save that model. So we created a model, taking all these rules, and I had somebody in Las Vegas that I know that works up there, and he sent me something like 3,000 charts, a sport chart. Who won? Was it home team, visiting team? What time did the game start? And we put all that stuff in there: baseball, football, basketball, hockey. All right, and we couldn't predict, using this stuff. We could not predict the sport less than 10% of the time who was the winner with his rules. So, and we tried every which way to try to find out if his rules was working, but none of them worked. All right, I remember I put at that time, before, when I got the book, the Giants were playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And, of course, I like the Patriots a lot, but I like the Giants, too. I mean, I live in Connecticut, so I'm in between the two. And it was clearly, with this guy's book, that the Patriots was going to win by far, So I put some money on it, and I lost my shirt, because I believe that, if I remember right, the Patriots in that game didn't score one score. They got walloped. And so this is what it's nice to know, that we can take a book and we can look at something and check it out astrologically. And if we have, for instance, 3,000 games, and we can't predict less than 10% of the time, that means it doesn't work. I mean, because if a system worked, you were able to do that. I know that I do also a lot of work with the market. Of course, we have we wrote 5 software to trade the market. Our titanium is in every bank in the world and major institution, and as a matter of fact, it won 3 years in a row in stock and commodities, the best neural net to predict the market, and it's based on astrology, and Stock and Commodity is a technical magazine, not an astrology magazine. So we know that I did the whole thing with researching the market and astrology, and we know that astrology works. It's just that it's got to be put in the right places, in the right places. And so if you use the right thing, I mean, it's like anything else. There's nothing that's 100% proof. But at least I have confidence. I trade the market every day, and I have confidence that I know that I'm going to be at least over 90 to 95% of my winning, that I will win. When I say buy and sell, very few times I lost money. I can count on my fingers, and I've been trading since 1982. But I'm very careful, and our software, the research has been done into different ways. So we come from the back door, front door, side door, and when all of this says that buy here and sell here, then it works. So one thing that I want to do real quick also here is that I remember the first lecture I ever given at UAC, and I don't know, it was, I don't know how many years ago that was on weather forecasting. I was always interested in weather forecasting, and Zane's book for the Church of Light put out a book. I think he calls it Weather Forecasting, Weather or something. I forgot. It's a little black book. He had a whole series of book, and so one day I wanted to test his things out, and but I can say compared to the sport book, this book works. When he says something works, something works. I mean, it's amazing how you can predict the weather with his book. All right. And so the way it works is that he works with the quarter of the moon. So you take the quarter of the moon for each month, and then you make your prediction according to that. All right, and so that's the way that the system works. So and we have something like this. As a matter of fact, this was even our first research that we've done way back. But it's funny talking about UAC. I'll be talking at UAC in 2018 in Chicago. They asked me to speak, and I said, so they accepted me. So I'm going to be speaking exactly on my Uranus return. All right, so who knows what's going to happen? You think I'm going to pull that through? I don't know. But Uranus rules my midheaven anyway, and so it's funny how things work. But I've spoken at every UAC. Okay, so let's clear this up, and let's set this up to the control group from files. Okay, so I'm going to go up, and I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to open a control group, and I'm going to go into right here, and I'm going to go into this one right here first, and then I'm going to go up and open the sample file. That was a control group that I just brought up. Now I'm going to bring up the sample file for 1 to 2 inches of rain. Okay, that's what I brought up. Here's 1 to 2 inches of rain. Put that up. Here they are. Okay, so the whatchamacallit says that the wettest sign in the when you predict the market, there's a few things that he uses. The IC, the nadir or the IC of the chart, the fourth house cusp, all right, is the one that's more important. He claimed that's half. You predict half the weather on that, and the sign that it's on, that it's in, and also the dispositor. So let's see that it's the fourth house cusp is in Aries. You would analyze Aries. You would also analyze the sign that Mars is in. Then the ascendant is the next important thing, the sign that it's in, its dispositor, planet in the first house, and then the moon. All right, but he claims that the wettest sign is Taurus, Cancer, Capricorn, and Pisces. All right. So in other words, if we have on the fourth house cusp one of these signs, that means that we have a high probability of having rain or snow if it's winter. I mean, that week. And there's other stuff that we use. So what we can do now is we can go here. All right. And as you can see over here, there's tons of stuff that you can set it up. You can double them up. You can do anything, and I mean, it just works. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say position of the moon. Okay, so I'm going to put the moon here instead of the sun. No, the IC we're talking about. I'm sorry, the IC right here. Okay, so I'm going to put that up, and I'm going to go into signs. All right, and I'm going to clear this up, and I'm going to say we said Taurus, Cancer, Capricorn, and Pisces. All right, those are the wettest signs. So here they are. Actually, I need to take that out. I'm sorry. Clear this up. And I'm going to go back here. Pisces, okay. Now I'm saying that the I see in these signs here, right? And then I'm going to go out and hit calculate. And look what it says. It says to me that the program tells me that if the IC is in, and we have 498 chart that had 1 to 2 inches of rain that week. All right, because you figure that we use quarter of the moon, so the forecast is for the week, and I'm still trying to find out. I found out that I would say 80% of the time, when the moon crosses an angle or the moon is more at the bottom part of the chart, that's the day that it will rain. So in other words, because the quarter of a moon tells you 7 days forecast, so you need to find out what day it is. And I remember when Carol and I got married, she always wanted to get married in the park here, Elizabeth Park. It's one of the best, it's nationally known as the best rose garden in the United States. She always wanted to get married there. And she wanted to get married in June, because June was when the roses were all blooming up. And I did my weather forecast on Saturday, and I told Carol, I said, we can't get married, on June, because every Saturday it's going to rain. So I picked May 30th, which there was a couple of roses there, not as much as we'd like to, but there was. And it's true that if you look at 1986, 87, we got married. We got married on May 30th. All of June, every weekend it rained. So I was right. So I do that a lot for company picnics and stuff like that, looking at the weather and see what happens. So we know that when these are the weather sign. So that's really a nice thing. Let's look at some other stuff that we look in the book here, and I'm going to go into something different here. I'm going to still say from control group. And this time I'm going to go to where I have more rain. All right, so I say control group, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say I'm going to use 1 to 3 inches of rain. So I have more of it. All right, so I'll say OK, and I got it there. Then I'm going to say OK, the file. I'm going to go back in here, weather, and I'm going to say 1 to 2 inches of rain right here, 1 to 3. I'm going to say OK. So here. Okay, so now let's see that he also said that the planet Saturn and Venus in the first house is the one that bring more rain when of any planets on the ascendant. All right, so we can check that out very easily. We can go here, and we can say position, and I'm going to get rid of the sign here because we don't need the sign. Get the planet here, clear that up, and I'm going to say Venus and Saturn right here. Okay, and so Venus and Saturn in the first house. So I'm going to go up here in the first house. Bang. So let's see if that gives me the thing. Yeah, natal Venus in the first house and Saturn in the first house. Now we got 713 days of rain. So now we're going to say OK, and we're going to say OK. Let's check that out. There they are. There's Saturn on the ascendant. It's got a chi-square of 4.9, a probability of 97% of the time when Saturn is in the quarter of the moon, is in the first house. We're going to have rain. There's a strong possibility. But again, you use the whole thing. You look at the fourth house, see if it's those sign that's wet. Saturn in the first house, Venus in the first house, aspect also, and you create a model. Then you can really say, okay, there's a strong possibility that we will have real strong rain. So again, this works again. We say often, not so much with Venus though. Venus has got a low chi-square, 1.7, 81% probability. But remember that the Scorpio and the Capricorn are the two planet that creates storm and creates more two sign that creates more storm, and also like flood and stuff like that, or high stuff. So, okay. So he also said that if you have the moon, okay, in water sign, that's a high probability that we're going to have a lot of rain, heavy precipitation. So all we got to do is we go into here and we say position again, and we clear that. We say water sign. Okay, so water. So now we change the moon to that, and that's what I like about Zane. I mean, remember he did that in 1935. He did that all long-handed. I mean, he must have had patience to check all of that. And remember, we didn't have computers to calculate the new moons and quarter of a moon those days. He did it all by hand. And for him to arrive at something like that is amazing. All right. So natal moon. All right. Oh, I don't want that. Natal moon in a water sign. So let's see what that does, and let's go up and calculate that. And there it is again. 189 of them have that. The moon in water sign, 6.6 chi-square, 99% probability that if the moon is in a water sign in the quarter of the moon, chances are we're going to have rain. I mean, just by itself, it may not work, but with other stuff that that we're looking at here and everything, it's very possible that this can really happen a lot. Okay, and some of the two strongest with the moon actually is the moon in Pisces and Scorpio. Scorpio is the highest in probability. Here I measured in all water sign, but the highest chi-square is the moon in Scorpio, and so that's really, really powerful. Now he also said, let me see here if I can find any other stuff here. I mean, I wrote a whole thing on that, and I'm going to be doing a whole couple hours at Baltimore, NCGR Baltimore conference on the weather forecasting and some of the stuff. I'm going to be going, because they're going to have a research track, so I'm going to be talking about research. But one thing that I'm going to be also lecturing on in Baltimore is going to be, and I've been a full-time astrologer since 1965, over 51 years. All right, I raised 5 kids as a full-time astrologer. Back in the 60s, I went to a bad divorce, ended up with 5 kids, and ended up with all the kids. The judge gave me all the kids and give all the money in the house to my wife and say, go. All right, and so I quit my engineering job and stayed home and did astrology, because I couldn't travel an hour and a half, because my kids weren't that old. So, and if one thing that I learned a lot from doing research is the research that we've done research in death, dying, and we didn't do the dying to say, can we predict when somebody died? That wasn't our purpose. Our purpose was, what rules dying? Is it the 8th house? Is it the 4th house? Some people, I've read books that say it's the 12th house. Some people says it's the 4th house, because old astrologer would call that the graveyard. The fourth house, and so we did a research on that. Then we did a research on accident. We did a research on father dying, mother dying, and everything. Plus, we did a research on marriages. All right, we had 1,200 marriages, I think. I'm not sure how many we had, but we had a slew of them anyway. And if one thing that I found through my research, and I'm going to be lecturing in that in Baltimore, is how the new moon and the eclipses work into prediction work. It's just amazing. It blew my mind, because, like I said, for years I've lectured at almost every conference, a local conference, major conferences, and everywhere. And I've sat on a lot of lectures in new moon and eclipses. And people said, oh well, they last for a month. Some people said they last for a year. Some people said they last for 5 years. But every time that I went out and checked it out, it did not work. But we found that the new moon and the eclipse, you can almost predict when you're going to get married, when you're going to die, an accident, a job promotion, just by looking at the new moon when it falls in your chart for a certain time. Because remember, the new moon lasts for a month. The eclipse usually lasts for 6 months. Sometimes you have two, 3 eclipses in a year, but 99% of the time you have 2 eclipses a year. So from one eclipse to the next eclipse, that's the duration of the strength of the eclipse. So it lasts about 6 months. And you can look at things and say, okay, this is going to be where my energy is going to be this month. And in a big picture, for looking at the eclipses. And my God, it's just amazing. And what it did for me, also, because I do a lot of chart rectification for astrologers, clients from all over the world, all right, it helped me tremendously to help me focusing on rectifying chart. Because, if the mother died, you usually use that, marriages and all. And if you see that the chart you're starting to work with has an eclipse in the 10th house, a new moon in the 10th house or in the 4th house, you're close. And so all this stuff really helps you out. So I really feel that this works very well. So the research is really something that you can do. But I want to show you something. Let me see if I can I can go through a lot of stuff here. The IC in Capricorn and the wet sign and the dry sign, the moon in fixity. So we can check that out real quick again, because we can get out of here and we can go here and say, all right. So with the weather forecast, we can actually, let me see here. Did I click on the right thing? Yeah, control group. Okay. And I'm going to go here. And as you can see here, with the weather forecast, we've broken it down into 3 consecutive days of rain, 5 consecutive days of no rain, below 0, completely dry, and we go sunshine and rain, and so we're snow and thunder shower and all that, and so lightning also. I did some work on that, and everything that Zane said in his book, by golly, I swear, it's the best book that I did purposely to see how well that he did, all this research by hand. But what he did it right. It's all right. So now, if you look at completely dry, I can go up here and I can bring the control group. All right, this is the control group. Then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to bring a chart. And go here. I say completely dry right here, the chart. So that's a sample chart. We have 244 days, and I'm going to go up and I say, okay. They said the moon in fixed sign, right? I said fixed sign, right? So I'm going to change this, clear that, put the moon in here, and that puts it in fixed sign. So we have natal moon in fixed sign. I'm going to go out and look at this. Well, forget the moon and water. We'll just look at the moon and fixed sign. And you can see here, that tells us a lot, right? Because it says, okay, in completely dry, when we have a week that doesn't have anything, all right, no rain, no nothing, nothing, all right? We know that the moon in fixed sign is got a 2.9 chi-square and 91% probability that often, means it happens often. And also, though, the moon in water sign, all right, it says 3.7, 94% probability that it'll never happen. So if you have the moon in water sign, then it's not going to be dry. And that proves the point that this stuff works, one against the other. So as you can see, even in a dry sign, we can see that the moon in water says it will never happen. So it's amazing how, and this is what we need to do as astrologer. But one thing that fascinated me also is that, let's see if I can remember what I've done here. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to clear this now, and I'm going to go here, and this time I don't have a control group, so I'm going to generate the thing automatically. Maybe it generates control group, and what we do is that we ask a lot of I don't know how many of you Urban Lorraine, I think that was his name, Mark Urban Lorraine, I think was his name. He was a professor of statistic teacher, and he gave me some of the stuff to create these control group. See, random age, real age means that we take so many people around the same age, and we arbitrarily throw charts around, and so to generate the control group. Okay, and then a couple other one. This one here, the difference between T8, T-min and T-max, that would be between setting a day, maybe 3 days. You can set it 3 days, generate control group around every one of those sample that we have in here. So we have different way. I found the real age works very well, and this, like I said, comes from different people. I know that some of them were given by a friend of mine that studied astrology with me, and he teaches statistics at University of Connecticut here. So this was also something. So this is what we do. We can do that. All right. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to load a chart. Okay, and I'm going to go and say, I'm looking for teachers. Teachers. There they are. Okay, these are teachers. So, okay, we have 593 teachers. So, what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to find out if the ruler of the third house, does the third house rules teacher. Okay? So, what I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to see status of a ruler. As you can see, you can do parallax, you can do dispositor, you can do rulers, you can do planet dignity, the first and last aspect between the moon, rising before the sun, intercepted. There's nothing that you can't really check into here, because we got two ways of approaching this. But anyway, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go into ruler. And I'm going to say the ruler of the third house, okay, third house, in-house, right here, in the house. So in other words, I'm going to say the ruler of the third house in the 10th house. So I'm saying to say, does the teacher has the ruler of the third house, the mind, in the career house? Okay, and then I'm going to add this. And I'm going to go back. Now I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to say the ruler of the 10th house in the third house. So in other words, the ruler of the career in the third house. I'm going to go out and do this. And here I'm going to put this into, get rid of the midheaven, put it into the third house. Bang. So now I'm looking at both ways, right? I'm looking at the ruler of the third in the midheaven, and the ruler of the midheaven in the third. Does that make teachers? There, we'll calculate it. And look at this. The ruler of the third in the midheaven has got not so much high probability, but at least it proves that the third house has something to do with teachers. All right? And when we look at it, we see that the ruler of the midheaven in the third house, no. Let's try something else. Ninth house, suppose is a teacher also. We'll see what that does. So we'll say that the ruler of the ninth house, right here. Well, let's see the ruler of the midheaven. We're already there. The ruler of the midheaven in the ninth house. Okay, to see if it's stronger than the third house. So we're looking at the ruler of the 10th house, the midheaven, into the ninth house. So there we are right here. And then we're going to reverse it. We're going to say the ruler of the ninth house in the midheaven, in the 10th house. So that come up higher than the third house. There. And we do that. And as we can see, no, the ninth house didn't come up at all. As a matter of fact, as you can see, the control group between the ninth house here, no, that was the third house. The ninth house, they're almost the same. the control group, the occurrence, that's the sample. The control group had 47 of them that had that, so it didn't give you anything. And the midheaven in the ninth house the same way, 42 to here. This one is 75 to 67, so it gives us a thing that works. And I remember doing artists also, and I was doing the Venus to the 10th house, and the 10th house to, I mean the 5th house to the 10th house, and the 10th house to the 5th house, and that worked also. That artist comes out of the 5th house. Of course, the 5th house is the house of creativity. So it's amazing when you can take a whole bunch of people, all right, and make the thing works. That's the best thing about it, is that when you can put that together. But the problem with astrologers is that they, and I've been around astrologers for a long time, as you can see. I've been around astrologers everywhere in the world. I think I've lectured something like 12 times in Russia. And I mean, I've been in England, I've been everywhere. And so I met astrologers from all over the world. But I think what astrologer does that really confuses us many times is what they do is they take a concept, all right, and then they look with in their database and they find 3 charts that meets that concept, all right, and then they write a book on it. But then you take that concept and you put it into 1,000 chart that they're talking about, maybe lawyers or stuff like that, and it doesn't work at all. So that's the problem, I think, and that's sort of confusing to astrologers. All right, I know that the big thing going right now is old house system. All right, because you got a couple of top astrologer that is much into Hellenistic astrology, and I've done some research in old house system, and I didn't really get involved into it that much, but when we pick up more Gators, because right now we're loaded, with Gators, we got all our work we're working on. I like to be able to help people to do that. All right, do a whole house system, and I know how to approach it. But what I did with a whole house system didn't hold true at all. Because what it does is that it moves certain planet in the 12th house into the 1st house many times. Like I have 2 clients that run, they've been with me for a long time, but they're sort of crazy a little bit. They go see a psychiatrist, once a week ever since that that I've known them for 40 years. And they have a lot of 12th house. They have like the sun in the 12th house, the moon in the 12th house, and stuff like that, conjuncting Mars in the 12th house. And they're a little bit crazy. But when you use old house system, it moves all of that in the 1st house. So a sun in the 1st house is totally different personality than the moon in the in the 12th. Than the sun in the 12th. And that's the problem. By moving that, and some astrologer claim that they would get better reading when you use old house system. I don't believe it, all right, because it moves the planet sometimes around where it doesn't seem to work. And another thing that really bothers me with that is that we know when we did research in all kinds of different things, surgery, blah blah blah, when a major thing happened in your life, there's always a planet that's going to be on the angles, all right, and the real angles, not the 0 degree angle, all right. So you really have to know. I know that I hate to say this, but there's a whole house system astrologer that rectified charts on his website. He's going to rectify a chart within 2 hours. What good is that? I mean, how can you work with client and that's one thing I'm a real stickler on. It's like Franco was saying at the beginning here. I rectified every person's chart. If a new client comes in, I want to know 7 things that happened in their life, and I want to go up and I want to check it out if their chart works. If it works, I'll work with them. If not, forget it. All right, because I know if you want to be a great astrologer, you got to have that. And with old house system, how can you do it? But anyway. So that's the thing about doing research. All right. So there's like I said, this software here can carry a lot of stuff. You can check everything out. But I got to tell you one of the best stories on research. They brought in a guy here in Connecticut. He has a PhD. All right. And I'm not going to tell you who he was. Very well-known astrology. He came in and did a thing on murderer. And he concluded that the people that he had 3 charts of murderer, and he concluded that murderers come from a fixed sun squaring a fixed Pluto. Well, hell, I mean, people born from 1944 up till the 40s and the 50s all have that. And so what happened is that, on the way home, I'm driving home at 10 o'clock, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I ought to take the exit to go home, because my honey, she has that. She has a sun in Scorpio squaring a Pluto in Leo. I said, oh my God, I'm married to a murderer. But then when I came home, the first thing I do, it's like anything else, right? As an astrologer, you open your computer, you want to check it out. And that was seldomly happen. The murder. I had something like 88 murders, maybe a little more, and I found out that the seldom murder has a fixed sun squaring a fixed Pluto. And again, with this software, you can actually put all that together. I mean, you can do. There's nothing, like I said, in the sky here. There is nothing that you can't do to, that you can't research. And you can create your own control group. You can do a lot of stuff. And we have stuff in there like we call converter, that we can convert a stationary point. We can convert ingress chart, a sunrise chart, moon chart, all kinds of moon charts, quarter moon thing. And we can do tons of stuff in the background with this program. So, I mean, the program is a little, well, it's a little complicated if you want to look at it in a way. But, I mean, we have a lot of Gators that spend a little time with it, and we're here to help you out anyway. And we meet, like I said, on GoToMeeting, just like we are now, every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And, we have people in Europe that gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on our meeting here on Tuesday night. So, maybe we can fix it up where we can set up a European Gator place where they can actually work there. So, there's a lot of stuff we can do. But research is really something that always, I was always interested in. And there's so many things you can do. And the hardest part also, that we need to do more and more, I believe, is to collect data. So I'm just updating my website. We're going to have a new dedicated server, which is 3 times bigger than the old one. And we're going to set up a whole thing, and maybe a lot of you people can join in and use Facebook and stuff like that to send them to our website to collect data. Because once we got the data, we can actually use this program to do anything we want, just about anything. And yes, astrology works, and we can do that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You can do. One thing that I always wanted to do in research anyway was to take every career there is: doctors, lawyers, bookkeeper, nurses, and all that, and do a neural net, like I showed you with the suicide that I did. And like we did with the breast cancer, where now we have a neural net, we can send any chart in there, and it tells you the probability that you might have breast cancer in this lifetime. And a lot of people tells me, well, that's morbid. That's not morbid, because if we prove that works, and a woman sends her thing in there and it looks like 80% she could have breast cancer, that means then she can every year be very concerned and go for what they call that, mammogram. a mammogram, and keep track on it, because breast cancer, if you catch it in time, you're going to live through it, and there's no problem. Because I know some of my clients caught it in time, and they were never bothered with it again. So it would be nice to have that. It's not morbid. But one of the things that I always wanted to do, like I said, with a career, I wrote a whole article on that. And if you go on my website, Alphee, at www.alphee.com, and you look at futuristic way, the article that I wrote on futuristic way looking at astrology and research, I had a whole article there on career and how it works, and that proved that it works. It would be nice to have 200 different careers there, all right? And a mother that's got a child and doesn't know the talent. He's got talent in art, he's got talent in numbers, he has talent in here. She could send her child into all these career stuff, and what would happen is that it would tell them where their talent lies, and we could set that up for free and help all the mothers and everybody that has children to go up there and do it. See, the nice thing about it is that I can take, right now I'm just going to do something like this. It means nothing, but I just see, let's see, these were all career here, right? Let's see, they're all career, all that, and I can say, okay, I can go up now, and I can bring up, let me see here, I can bring up, I can bring up the president, okay? This is all the president's chart here. They're all here. But let's see, these was all career, and these were all kids, not the president. I just want to show you that we could have a lot of them like this, right? All set up. And then we could say calculate, and watch that. We're going to take a minute and calculate it, because we have a lot of them. And then it will tell them which one are they more compatible with. Are they more compatible with the doctors? Are they more compatible with a lawyer, a nurse, a pilot, or stuff like that? And that would be, see that? I'm going to make it bigger so we can all see it. Now you see this? Now if this was a mother, she could look at it and she could say, okay, let's see, this was doctor. Oh, my kid is more thing with a doctor, not so much with a lawyer. And then they could look at things like that and say, oh wow, it's very strong here. That would be a career that they could work on. This has been my dream. This has been my biggest dream as a researcher, astrologer, to be able to do that, to help, everybody to pick their career where they're best suited for. Because we know as astrologers, we were born here for a reason. All right, I was born here to be an astrologer. This is what I went through, all what I need to do. And I used to play hockey, and I got my kneecap taken on. I ended up in the hospital, that was back in 1952. In 1952, you go in the hospital, you end up with a staph infection. So I ended up with a staph infection. They were going to cut my leg off. They were going to do this, and finally, But when I was laying in bed, this nurse came up and brought me an astrology book, How to Cast Your Own Horoscope by Alan Leo. And of course, I graduated from high school, but I was only 18 years old. I didn't go to college yet. And there was a lot of tricks. So the nurse said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll bring the doctors, and he's going to show you trig. It's very easy to do, trigonometry. And I cast my own chart. See, it was no reason why all this happened. And down the road, I became an astrologer for over 50 years. So as you can see, there's a reason, and it would be nice to know what things are going. But again, not only here that we can predict working with the natal chart. What we've been doing today is evaluating the natal chart. But let's say you're working with accident, and you have a slew of people that had a car accident, and you want to know what caused car accident. All right, you could put it up there, and then over here you have certain choice. You can even do transit to those chart. You can do backward transit, progression, converse progression, tertiary, minor, name it. I mean, soul arc, 1 day a year, everything. I mean, you can add just about everything you want. So as you can see, the program is fast. It's huge, and like I said, it's designed. And by the way, we had 1, 2, 3 PhD to help me put this program together. All right. Two of them were teachers at colleges, and one of them was a Russian scientist. All right, and that we put this thing together. So as you can see, the program is made, and it's based strictly on doing astrology. So if any one of you are interested to maybe attend one of our meetings on Tuesday night, you got my email. It's Alphee, ALPHEE, at Comcast.net. All right, just send me an email, and we meet, like I said, at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday night. So if you're interested to see what we do, and then, maybe you want to start working with the Gators to do research or help collect data or what have you, we need a person that's a little aggressive, because I have 4 planets in Libra. Although I was a hockey player, I'm not aggressive. All right, and so I'm so busy, but it would be nice to bring somebody here that could really help us out with that. So with that, I want to thank everybody to attend the meeting, and I'm going to have this on YouTube probably by tomorrow night. And so you can go. I usually put it. I have a thing on YouTube under Alphee Lavoie. So if you could search for Alphee Lavoie, it'll be underneath that. So spread the word around, and please help us do research. I think if you're interested in astrology, and I think you are, all right, because go ahead. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Diane. And yeah. Yeah, I know that, and Diane is the girl that did the research that I'm talking about on sport. All right, and she did a hell of a job. And when we went to check her out, we couldn't find anything wrong she did. So we agreed with her that with this man's method, you can predict sport outcome less than 10% of the time. So, it's nice to know. If we could put up all these good astrology books, then maybe, we won't be laughed at, when we're on TV shows. I've been on TV shows where, I've been questioned and laughed at and all that. And, it's funny. But it's because that a lot of people don't really care. They just read one book and they became an astrologer. And so we need to do more. All right. Do I have any questions before I go? I mean, you can type them in there or talk if you have a mic, and otherwise we'll call it. And I think that more of you should think about it. All right. It doesn't. I figure that most of the Gators probably spend 2 hours a week working on their project, and you have 2 hours a week. I mean, all you got to do is put a laptop on your lap as you're watching. I always have a laptop on my lap every night as I'm watching TV, sport, or anything, because I need to catch up on my work. So that's how I catch up. Is my TV time is my time that I do a lot of catching up. All right. So with that, I think we're gonna call it a day. And thank you very much. And if you have any question, like I said, email me at alphee@comcast.net. And I'll be glad to answer any question that you have. And thank you so much for coming. And thank Franco and Steve too for putting the time in here. Thank you. That's all right. Hey, look at your chart. Maybe you had a bad day. Okay. Good. All righty.